CeeDee Lamb has scored a touchdown in 9 straight games and is minus 150 to make it 10 in a row. This weekend, we've got Browns, Texans, Dolphins, Chiefs, Steelers, Bills. We've got Packers, Cowboys, Rams, and Lions. Welcome to Prop It Up. I am Andy Lang from WagerTalk.com, being joined, as always, by my fellow prop master, Andrew McGinnis from WagerTalk.com. It is finally time for all football games to mean something. And we're going to break down all of the props in these games. Andrew, welcome. Let's just talk weather real quick before we jump right into the games, because there's 2 games really drastically affected. Of course, we're talking about the Miami Dolphins at the Kansas City Chiefs. It is just getting more and more brutal, this weather forecast. Right now, they're calling for temperature to be around 0 degrees at kickoff. But the wind is going to make it feel like 20 to 30 degrees below zero. It looks like 10 to 15 mile an hour sustained winds, gusts up to 25. Andrew, there's cold, and then there's this. This is just going to be a wild game. And Pittsburgh and Buffalo says, hold my frozen beer. Temperatures are going to be in the 20s, but they're sustained winds over 20 miles an hour. So not only are they getting cold, they're getting a lot of wind, gusts up to 35. Snow is going to be there, but it should be ahead of the game. They may get some snow falling in between. They're much more worried about the wind in that game as opposed to just the downright temperature. So I guess just real quick before we get into the game, because the first game we're going to start off is indoors, just warm Houston Texans, Cleveland Browns game. I guess, what do we do with this weather? Does it affect our handicapping a lot, just a little bit? What do you do when you look at these games with this extreme cold?
First thing I do is feel bad for these guys, because I hate being cold myself. Nobody wants to be cold. But, the second thing I do, Andy, really is look at the adjustments, right? Look at what the totals are right now and kind of think to myself, okay, what would these be for the props? What would they be for the full game total if the weather wasn't this way? You also look at the teams in general. And then number 3, which probably should be number 1 in all seriousness, is the wind. I mean, you've mentioned wind. I've heard you do like 4 or 5 rants on different shows about wind. And, depending on kind of how fast it's going, what way it's moving. And then, of course, as you always mention, they always show the flags at the top of the stadium. Good thing they aren't playing football at the top of the stadium. But to be quite honest, like I look at the Chiefs and Bills game, and I look at the Steelers and the Chiefs and Dolphins and the Steelers and Bills game, and the weather to me is way more of a concern in that game than it is for the Miami Dolphins game. Like just in general with how those teams have been playing, I already lean towards a lot of unders for both total and props in that one. But then the weather kind of is just an added onto it with the wind and just the snow and everything that sounds so bad. But I still think that with how cold it's going to be in that Dolphins game, and I know the Dolphins coming from Miami, there's been an adjustment to not just the full game total, but the props. So I just think that's something that I'm looking at. And I think that I would look a lot more towards receptions, though, than I would towards yards. Just thinking that there's going to be a lot of quicker plays and, not really airing it out deep as much.
Love it. Well, let's start with the Cleveland Browns and the Houston Texans. No weather issues in this one. Crazy stat. CJ Stroud was 8 years old when Joe Flacco made his first playoff debut. And now they play each other. That's just absolutely crazy. So CJ Stroud makes his playoff debut against Joe Flacco. Props wise, what do you like in this one? I've got only one, but it's a strong one. I'm interested to see what your take is on this game.
Andy, do you mind going first for a second? Actually, I just have my pages just refreshing a little bit. So do you mind going first?
Sure. Yeah. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. As Joe Neary would say, I'm going Joe Flacco over 271.5 passing. This has just been the gift that keeps on giving with Joe Flacco. He has thrown for 311, 374, 368, and 309 yards the last 4 games. That's not Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. That is Joe Flacco, who is creeping up on 40 years old. In 5 games, he has more touchdown passes than the New York Jets, and he has the exact same amount as the Panthers and the Steelers. The Cleveland Browns have just said, you're going to air it out. We know we can't run the ball super effectively, but we don't need to because you're going to throw the ball a lot. You're going to throw it deep. And we know you're going to get at least one, possibly two interceptions, but we think the upside is there, and it's been working. This is a Houston Texans team that has allowed 232 yards passing per game. But when you dive a little bit deeper into that number for Houston, they have not played quarterbacks that throw the ball for very many yards. So they played Gardner Minshew twice. They played Ryan Tannehill, Will Levis, Zach Wilson, Russell Wilson, Bryce Young, and Kenny Pickett. Now you look at some of the above average quarterbacks that they've played. Trevor Lawrence went over this total twice. Desmond Ridder, Andrew, threw for 365 yards against this team. Joe Burrow had 347. Derek Carr had 353. And then Joe Flacco threw for 368 yards against them. So this is a Texans team that ranks much better against the run than they do against the pass. And Kareem Hunt, Jerome Ford, they're serviceable, but is that the duo that you want to put your playoff hopes in? I just think the receiving, David Njoku, I expect to have a good game. Amari Cooper should have a good game. I cannot get away from this Cleveland Browns passing attack. I like the over in this game because the Cleveland Browns games have been going over. Their defense is good, but they do give up points, whether it's at the end of the game in garbage time, whether it's Flacco throwing interceptions and the other team getting good scoring or a good field position. And we know CJ Stroud can air the ball out as well. We know that this is an offense that can put up points. So, I'm just going to keep it consistent. I think the stats that we saw in the regular season are going to bleed over into the playoffs. It's Joe Flacco overpassing. It's Cleveland Browns games over their total. I'm going to keep it simple on this one. So, what'd you find in this game?
Hey, simple creates wins, and I really like that one as well. That was one that I have circled there with Flacco. Never again, Andy, will I look at attempts or completions, and I'll never forget that week that he went way over his passing, and I had the attempts. And speaking of which, I actually want to go under on Flacco's completions. And I know that sounds funny, but with the way he airs it out, they're mixing in the run game, and the way he's accumulating his high number of passing yards is on those big plays. Like, he's not accumulating his passing yards by short passes, by dump offs. It's just, and there's a reason why he gets one or two INTs per game, and people are expecting him to throw one. But the funny thing is with Flacco, his interceptions are pretty much like punts. It's like when Josh Allen throws an interception. It's like he's throwing it down the entire field. So that doesn't really matter. But for what he's able to do right now in the passing game, how many passing yards he's getting, for how many times he's actually throwing it and how many pass completions he's having, I think is really impressive. So I'm right there with you on the passing yards, but I wouldn't be shocked to see the attempts or completions one go under. Looking at the other side really quick, I do think Stroud can go over 1.5 passing touchdowns. You're getting nice plus money on that. He's fared pretty well with that. And you look, there was the backup in there the last time these teams did meet, and he got over that, and there was plus money once again. Team total expecting them to get kind of in that 20-point mark, and I do believe that this team's going to have to air it out. I don't think that this is going to be a rather low-scoring and dud of a game. I think that we're going to have to see CJ make some big plays through the air, and I think that the Texans do run the ball, but I don't think they run the ball to score. I think that's how they get up the field. And speaking of which, I do like that 64.5 number for Devin Singletary. 24 carries when things mattered, when this, the playoff spot was on the line. And you just look at kind of the past couple weeks for him and in some of these big games that have mattered, you love going through the list and you love looking at players that against teams where maybe it was a blowout or, not that close of a game, they don't perform well. But when it matters most, they're putting the ball in his hands a ton. This play for me would almost be more of a worth on the carries than it would be on the yards. The more I look at it and the more I go down the list and see what he's done. But I think my favorite pick on this game as a whole would be David Njoku. And you mentioned it already. What he's doing and the amount of targets he's getting since Flacco took over as the quarterback, David Njoku is averaging 10 targets per game. His number is just 55.5 for his receiving. Obviously, Cooper's done very well. as well. But it seems like that connection's been there with him. And I think this Texans team struggles against the tight end position. So, that number has not really been adjusted too much since Flacco took over. And it really says something, I think, for us in the prop market when looking at these games. How long does it take sometimes for the prop market? We talk about it across other sports as well, to adjust to what a certain player is doing and how much attention they're getting. 10 targets per game is a hell of a lot, and all we need is 56 yards. I'll take the over. That's probably my best pick on this game with David Njoku.
Love it. Guys, please hit the like button and leave us a comment. Tell us what your best bet is for this wild card weekend. I know there's a lot of props out there, a lot of potential winners. So leave us a comment. Tell us what you like and give us a thumbs up. All right, time to move to the cold. I have to tell you, Andrew, before we get into this game, there was a game, the Colts versus the Denver Broncos. It was a playoff game, and it was temperature similar to this. And me and my buddies tried to tailgate, and it was my buddy's job to bring the charcoal, and the moron brought charcoal for gas grills, not lighters. So we couldn't even have a fire, and we were all bundled up. And then our stadium's indoors. If I have to bundle up for a tailgate, I would rather just have the game be outdoors rather than indoors, because what you got inside, you're burning up, and then you got to take all your layers off, and it's a mess trying to keep track of that. So this Dolphins and Chiefs, I don't know. I kind of have a hot take for this game, Andrew. I think the Dolphins pull the upset. I think everyone is this. Okay. This falls into the category of nobody believes in us, and I think the key is going to be the Miami Dolphins running game. I noticed last week that A-Chain was running wild against the Bills, and then all of a sudden he wasn't, and they weren't running him very much. And part of it was the Bills were just marching up and down the field. In this super cold weather with some of this wind, I think it's going to be a big advantage for the Dolphins. This is the number one rushing attack in the NFL. They average 5.1 yards per carry. A-Chain set the record for averaging over 7 yards per carry. So now you get Mostert coming back. You get A-Chain. So to me, huge advantage for the Miami Dolphins in there. And then we look at the Chiefs, like, you think Travis Kelce looked old and slow before. How's he going to look in minus 20, minus 30? So then who's your main receiving target for the Chiefs? It's Rice? I don't know, man. I think everyone's not giving the Dolphins too much of a chance. I know that their defense is banged up, but I love the Miami Dolphins to run the ball as much as possible. I think A-Chain over his attempts. I think Mostert over his attempts are plays. And then I will go back to the Miami Dolphin, the king of going overs in the receiving game, Andrew, and it is not Tyreek Hill. Of course, it's Durham Smythe. They keep hanging this number below 20 yards. It's 19.5 this week. This guy has had 32, 56, 54, and 30 the last 4 weeks. He has 17 targets in those 4 games, and he's caught all of them. 17 catches on 17 targets. He has a catch of 14 or more yards in 3 straight games. The Bills give up 44 yards receiving to tight ends. And in this wind and this cold, you got to believe Tua is not going to be able to air the ball out 40, 50 yards down the field to Tyreek Hill. I think Durham Smythe is actually a lot more involved in the passing game with some of these shorter ones. I like the Dolphins props in this one. I like both running backs over their attempts. I like Durham Smythe over his rushing yards. And I think this game is way too close for comfort for the Chiefs, and it wouldn't surprise me if it came down to a last possession and maybe the Dolphins pull off the upset. What about you? What do you think?
Man, my favorite thing about the playoffs, like you look around at all the WagerTalk handicappers and just people handicapping in general, is that there's really been no consensus. It's awesome. Like, Andy, I was on WagerTalk today on Monday, gave out -2.5 for the Chiefs, or 3.5, excuse me. Yeah, that number is at 4.5, even 5 at some books now. You're seeing all kinds of people like yourself showing some love towards the Dolphins. It's great. It's great because there's no real one side for people. Everybody has their own different opinion. There's really 3 that I like, and I will just kind of say that I really do like the Durham Smythe one that you mentioned. The big reason I will say that I kind of am buying into the cold aspect with him, you know, the dump offs and things like that. When you look at a guy like him in the receiving game, it's pretty much like he's running the ball. Like how far are the catches he's making? 2 feet from the quarterback. It's not like they're that far, but he's explosive when he gets it. I think you only really need 2-3 receptions for him to go over his receiving number. But Andy, look, I'm going to keep it simple. I know you'd make jokes sometimes saying, hey, we don't, you don't need to watch our show for us to tell you to bet on C-Mac. Well, I'm taking Travis Kelce over 5.5 receptions. I know you made the jokes about him being cold and things, and that's why I'm looking at the receptions and not as much the yards. But to me, the storyline in this game, I think, is very similar to many other storylines of the games here in Super Wildcard Weekend, is experience versus inexperience. This, to me, is still a Chiefs team that has been there, done that, won multiple times, has been to the big game, for me, this isn't Skylar Thompson out there. This is Tua. This is Tua getting his chance. To me, this is like actually experience. And when I look at this game as a whole, I know that whether it's crappy weather, cold weather, what type of weather it's going to be, I don't know how many yards he's going to go for, but averaging around getting at least 5 receptions in 13 games this season, even though going under his yards in a lot of those games, we need to bump it up to 1 more, get over 5.5. We know the chemistry that they have together. And I think that for this Dolphins team, they're going to try and shut down whatever type of long game that Kansas City has. It's not like they have much of one anymore. Obviously, since they got rid of Tyreek Hill, it's been pretty inexistent, but you've got guys like Rice and guys that can make plays. I really do think that Travis Kelce's receptions is the way to go, not yards. I think he does get the ball early and often in this game. And then lastly, I look at this one all the time in big games. I think Patrick Mahomes goes over his rushing yard number. You got to shop around for this one. I've seen as high as like 26.5. But for me, in big games, he's not scared to use his feet. If he does not see a spot open, does not see a guy to go to, he will go ahead and run. And really, the pass rush injuries are what we're kind of exploiting here for the Miami Dolphins. I don't see a ton of pressure. I don't see Patrick Mahomes being under a lot of pressure to make quick throws and make quick reads. If his guys aren't open, I could see him accumulating some yards on the feet. And the thing is with him, whenever he has a big game on the ground, you really only need 1 or 2 rushes. He's not one guy you need him to have like 6 or 7 rushing attempts to go over his number. He needs to have like maybe 2 or 3 good runs and he'll get you over his number. But I also do agree with you about the running game there for the Dolphins. But I really think that if you can bet props live, I think the Chiefs are going to go up early, and then it's going to be all about the halftime adjustments from McDaniels. Did you agree with that at all? Like, I think that what they do in the second half is going to decide the game, really.
Yeah, the first half is going to have to set up what happens in the second half. And I know that's kind of an obvious statement, but with this weather, like if you have one team that is having success running the ball and they can soften up the defense, I mean, if there's one team, like if the Chiefs just really get out and they're running the ball at will and they're averaging 5-6 yards a carry, I mean, that defensive line is just going to be miserable in the second half. And it could go the other way with the Dolphins, which is kind of why I like them. If they run the ball 20 times in the first half and really get that Chiefs defensive line, beaten up, and it's hard to tackle in the cold. But then after you've been, run at the whole time, I'm with you. Like, even if you don't put up a ton of points in the first half, like you said, if teams can set something up and make the adjustment for the second half, I think you and I both agree it's not going to be a high-scoring game. So it's probably going to be within, 1 score at halftime, and who can make that little extra adjustment that gets you, gets you the touchdown. So, yeah, I'm with you 100% that it should be interesting at halftime. And, yeah, if you see one team that's really having success run the ball, those live props could be gold on rush attempts and on yards for sure. So, real quick, guys, hit the like button, leave us a comment. I have a 5% play that is up at WagerTalk.com for the NFL. Had a really, really great start to the 2024 year, 22-12 in all sports, and coming off a sweep last weekend in NFL. Hit a 5%, hit a 4% play. You want to grab that? You can use the promo code LANG30, LANG30. Gets $100 off a 30-day pass. The Australian Open starts this weekend, so tennis is right up our alley. Number 1 in tennis last 365 days and looking forward to cashing another major. The major in the tennis in tennis is where the money is at. So we love these majors, especially the Australian Open. So if you want to lock in all plays, all percentages, use the promo code LANG30. We're up 91 units in 2023, and we're already up 22 units in 2024. So look to continue that one. Andrew, tell everyone what you have up, where we can find you at, and then let's move to the Sunday games, and let's talk Steelers and the Bills.
Andy, I've got a 5% play going up today that will be for Monday's game in the NFL. So a ton of time to get that. As we always say, we encourage the 3-day or 7-day passes. That way you're getting every single play we release. Of course, the prop pack, which is always updated throughout the weekend. You can get early plays. You get plays all the way up until game time. And it's nice because, I know last week there were meaningful gains, but I'm really enjoying handicapping this slate with every single game mattering, obviously with it being the postseason. Aussie Open, man, I'm with you. I'm handicapping it as well. It's my favorite tournament, actually. I just love it. I'm a night owl, or I guess some people will probably say there could be either morning people or late night people. I stay up late watching the Aussie Open. I'm handicapping the tennis, so I will be watching that. And I do have a combo package with Carmine, 7 days with the NHL. So you buy a 7-day pass for, regular price of one person, and we're throwing in both of us. So it's a great combo package there. So really looking forward to this weekend. And Andy, wish you best of luck with your 5%.
Thanks, you too. I'll start us off with Steelers and the Bills. I've got 2 Josh Allen props. I mean, listen, anytime you hang minus 120 on him to throw an interception in the wind, yeah, you got to take that. He's played 17 games and he has 18 interceptions. I mean, we bang on Zach Wilson throwing interceptions, but Josh Allen is he has an interception in 12 out of 13 games. So to me, it's just you pencil it in every single week. I'm also going to take his over 8.5 rush attempts. He had 15 last week against Miami, 11 the week before that. They just don't seem to trust James Cook to get that like 22, 25, carries per game. So, Josh Allen's going to be running the ball, especially in the cold with the wind. So I really like that one. And then sneaky one, this one's on DraftKings. Bills under 2.5 touchdowns. I mean, the weather in this game is gnarly. 35-mile-an-hour gusts, sustained winds at 20. I think both teams try and run the ball a ton, which means the clock is going to run. We've seen these bad weather games. I mean, we saw the Patriots and the Jets game. They barely scored 1 touchdown. This is a lot asking the Bills to get to 3 touchdowns. They barely got there last week, and they needed a punt return for a touchdown to get there. So I was pretty stunned to see 2.5 touchdowns. I like the under on that one, but I do like Allen to throw an interception and Allen over and 8.5 rush attempts. Andrew, what do you like in Steelers and the Bills?
Well, I think the weather is definitely more of a factor in this one. But you mentioned Josh Allen, and I didn't know if you were going to go towards the interception factor or you were going to go with the touchdown. So you picked one. I'm going to go with the other one here. Looking at him, the fact of the matter is 12 of 17 games we've seen him rush for a touchdown. And it's kind of like what I talked about with Mahomes in big games like this. Obviously, it's the playoffs. He's not afraid to sacrifice his body. In fact, if I was a Bills fan during the regular season with some games that are against bottom tier teams and they're up 14 points, not that it really happened many times this year to the Bills, I would be losing my mind with how much Josh Allen likes to sacrifice his body. The guy puts himself in harm's way all the time. But if the options aren't there, he'll be making his quick reads. I think that he'd be more than willing to go ahead and rush for the touchdown himself. Nobody can score on the goal line like Philadelphia and Jalen Hurts, but I think that if there's somebody else that I want to count on, it's Josh Allen to, really use his body and his size to get over that line. So decent price there at close to even money. So that'll be definitely a bet that will be in my pocket. And then one other one that I've kind of been going with quite a bit here, and it works out really well, is Jaylen Warren over on his receiving yards. Bills are allowing 5 catches and 42 receiving yards to opposing running backs. Talk about inclement weather. This is where you want to use it. We mentioned it with the last game. I think that there's going to be a lot of catches here for running backs in this game on both sides. But Let's be honest here. Do the Steelers really trust their quarterback, Andy? Do they even want him throwing past 10 yards? I know Mason has made some plays, but I think that if they can accumulate some yards and keep the Bills offense off the field as much as they possibly can, they're going to be utilizing their running backs as pass catchers. And Najee's been the guy with all the rushing attempts, and Warren's been kind of used as a pass catcher. So 18.5 over on receiving yards for a team against the team allowing over 40 to running backs, I think is a really solid play.
Love that one. Yeah, the wind is just going to make this game another brutal one for the fans. I don't know. These fan bases are crazy, man. They're gonna love it. I don't get it, but they're gonna love it.
I'll ask you what Prez asked somebody else. If you had a free ticket, like center of the field, would you go?
No, I wouldn't. I just wouldn't. I like the viewing experience at home better than I do like out in those miserable, thing. Part of the thing is I've been there and done that. I have family in Green Bay, so I've done those games, so it's not really a thrill anymore.
Okay.
Like it was fun a couple times, but no, I'm not meant to be sitting out there in that. I'm meant to be like at home live betting from the comfort of my couch.
Too. Like when I went to those Patriots games, the most fun I had was the tailgate. And the second I got into the game, maybe it would have helped that the Patriots had Mac Jones and I went to a Zach Wilson versus Mac Jones game. But I can't stand the cold, man. Like if you're having fun and you're drinking and meeting people, tailgating, that was fun. But just like I sat there in like freezing rain for like 3 hours, I would way prefer my couch and get that money back I spent on the game.
Yeah. Like they literally make TV shows about people trying to survive in those elements. I don't want to pay to go be in there.
They should be paying us.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about the Packers and the Cowboys, one that weather is not an issue. And Andrew, there's a lot you can do with this game. We mentioned CeeDee Lamb. I'm stunned that it's minus 150 on anytime touchdown. Like when Christian McCaffrey was on his streak, by this point, it was like minus 250. Now, McCaffrey, when he goes up against these bad teams, it's like minus 350 to score a touchdown. So I think that one, just on pure value on the minus 150, is worth a play. But I only have one player prop, and I love it. And I love Aaron Jones over 16.5 rush attempts. Here's one of the benefits to having Aaron Jones hurt throughout the year, Andrew, is this guy's probably the freshest running back in the playoffs right now. Like he has not had a season's worth of wear and tear. He has fresh legs. 20 plus carries in 3 straight games with 100 plus yards rushing. And if you're the Packers and you're going to try and go on the road and beat the Cowboys, you have got to keep the Dallas Cowboys off the field. And how do you do that? With long sustained drives and running the ball. They're going to need Aaron Jones to perform well. They're going to need Jordan Love to not make big mistakes. That's the only way that they're going to beat the Cowboys, because I think you and I would both agree this Packers defense is probably not going to be able to slow down Dallas for the entire game. So I think it's a heavy dose early and often of Aaron Jones. And if the Packers can keep this close, you might as well give Aaron Jones as many carries as possible. I love the 16.5 rush attempts. I like CeeDee Lamb anytime touchdown. Those are the plays I like. What did you like in the Packers and Cowboys?
I'm sitting here smiling, Andy, because look, we're doing a show together. There's all kinds of prop options. There's millions of different ways we could go, and I have Aaron Jones rushing yards. So
yes,
that was pretty much my favorite play on the game. I got 69.5 in for his over on rushing yards, and I agree with a lot of stuff you said there. And I think the real premise is this. Look, we're not knocking Jordan Love. I think he's really proved that he is someone that can be a leader on this team and is going to help them for years to come. But it's about keeping the Dallas offense off the field. It's about establishing the run. And if you look at some of these rankings, this Dallas Cowboys defense, middle of the pack against the run, near the top as far as against the pass. I think that I would really want them to prove this Packers team that they can run the ball. And I like the way you use the word fresh, because they're even still kind of giving him maintenance days in practice. And, we know what you can do. Just show up to that game healthy. What a way to come back, man. 3 straight games, 100+ yards, and obviously the carry numbers are there as well, as you mentioned. And I do think that that's important for them to be able to establish the pass. Like I think the early stages are where we get those yards the most from Aaron Jones. Obviously, this Cowboys team is not the Chicago Bears, but I will say Jordan Love did a good job of marching down the field. Realistically, last week, the Packers could have had a ton more points. There were some errors, some mental errors, like not using the clock properly before half, marching the whole field, not getting out of bounds twice, not utilizing a timeout, and then getting all the way into the red zone and missing a field goal, things like that. They did get down the field, but I think that they're really going to have to utilize the run in order to have success. And I guess according to Andy and I, whether it's the attempts or whether it's the yards, that's what you want to look at. And then someone I've made some money on, Andy, is Jake Ferguson. You know, you talk about CD. There's so many other guys you can look at for the Dallas Cowboys, but I like this number. Current number I am seeing here is 43.5. And you go through last week, he had 69, but I like the fact that he's getting steadily at least 4 or 5 receptions every single game. And you know how it is in the playoffs. Like, obviously big players have big games and they usually carry their teams. But, you know, if the Packers do everything they can to shut down the top guys, shut down CD, shut down Gallup, I think that we're going to see Ferguson just keep doing what he does. And whenever he catches the ball, he's like wide open. He usually doesn't go far after. He gets tackled somehow immediately afterwards. But I think that Ferguson at 43.5 is a really good play to make as well.
It's a great point about Ferguson. I had him on a fantasy team, so yeah, I watch him. You're right. Like, he catches the ball, nobody's there, and then like within half a second, all of a sudden 3 guys are taking him down. He's got like 3 yards after catch total this season. So someone in the chat here, Maynard Escobar, Allen and Flacco both to throw an interception. I checked it out. Andrew, that's plus 193 for both of them to throw an interception. That is tasty. Because I love your point about Flacco throwing interceptions that are like punts. It's so true. Not all interceptions are the same. If you're on the 10-yard line and you're getting ready to score, and instead of getting points, you throw an interception, that's one thing. But if it's 3rd and 11 and you throw the ball deep and it gets intercepted, it's the same thing as a punt. So I think that's a pretty good look at a 2-1. It's almost, you can call it 2-1 plus 193 on Josh Allen and Joe Flacco to both throw interceptions. I think that's a good one. So
they really hurt unders too, eh? Or they really hurt overs. Like I was talking about this with somebody else. Unless you throw a pick in your own end and, you know, they get the ball on the 20 or 30 yard line. Like, people that are celebrating picks sometimes because like they're like, oh, it could be a pick 6, or, you know, you're cheering on a side. People that love betting overs probably hate interceptions, and especially with 2 guys like that, because how often does Josh Allen throw a pick too when it's like 20 yards? Like, the only time he throws picks are when he's like looking that way and throws it over here like 80 yards, like something crazy, and it acts like a punt, really. So, I mean, the thing is, people can be mad at him as a fan or the coaches, but at least he's not ever putting himself. It's just like, all right, defense, get out there. Like, that was our punt. Go ahead, right?
Yeah, I did it again. Sorry, guys, you're up. Last game here, guys. Please hit the like button. We only got 5 likes, and I see a bunch of you in the chat room and a bunch of you watching live. So please go ahead, hit the like button, and leave us a comment. Last game here, and just a reminder, use the promo code LANG30 to get $100 off a 30-day pass. It includes all sports, all percentages. UFC is back, Andrew, this weekend. I'm very excited. We got a 5% NFL play. I went ahead and attached the R1 UFC play to that 5% NFL play. So you can grab all those plays up at WagerTalk.com. But really, grab a 30-day pass. Get you $100 off using the promo code LANG30, Andy Lang at WagerTalk.com. Rams and Lions, there's so many big names in this game. But, Andrew, I thought the books did a pretty good job with the lines. I didn't find a whole lot of value on some of them. I thought the numbers were pretty sharp. So I'm taking chalk. And like you said, you know, people don't need to watch this for us to tell you Christian McCaffrey is going to have a good game. I'm going to Monroe St. Brown over 89.5. Sam Laporta's banged up. Don't know if he's going to play. Even if he does play, he's not going to be anywhere near 100%. That's a lot of targets that have to go somewhere. And I was looking at some of the secondary guys like, well, does Josh Reynolds get a couple more targets? And I'm like, what are you doing? You're not taking Josh Reynolds in a playoff game. You're going with the studs in the playoff game. So I just think that this is where Goff is going to go. He's going to rely on his number one stud. Rams allowed 254 yards passing the last 3 games. You can throw on them. I think this game sets up to be a shootout because the Lions defense has just been falling apart. I think there's a lot of points in this game, and this game script would be amazing for St. Brown if they were down a little bit, which I think is absolutely within reason. So I'm just going to keep it simple. Amon-Ra St. Brown over 89.5. Wouldn't surprise me if he had a huge game through the air if the Lions get down in this one. What did you find props-wise in Rams and Lions?
Andy, I like Jared Goff over his passing, 260.5 passing yards here. I find it interesting looking at, there's all these angles. First of all, I'll just say this. I'm not making this bet because of any revenge or because of any coaching or any BS like that. I would make this bet, if he didn't play on the other team, if there wasn't any revenge type of stuff. I hate when I hear those angles. It really bothers me. That's not part of handicapping. He's not going to be extra motivated in this game for other reasons. It's the playoffs. It's the postseason. Nothing worse than hearing people say he'll be extra motivated in this game. Just had to say that. But LA gives up 12 yards per reception, which is unbelievable, with Jared Goff 11 yards per completion. And, I do think that missing Laporta is going to be huge for them. But when you look at the weapons and all the different guys they have and even their running backs that can catch the ball as well, it's fine. I think that really, for me, the deeper threats are going to be kind of shut down a little bit. We're going to have to see them kind of like yards after catch more than anything. But that is real shame about Laporta. But looking at this Rams team, they've like pretty much steadily given up points every single week. They haven't really had any weeks where they've got like absolutely exposed unless they're playing a team like the Ravens. But what I like about it is they haven't really shocked us with a random great game either. 20 points given up against the Niners there, 25 against the Giants, 20 against the Commanders, 22 against the Saints. To me, this is a team that has just proven that their numbers are what they are. You mentioned their defensive numbers as well. To me, when I look at this, I just don't really expect to see a Rams defense that improves really quickly. We talk about McVay getting the opportunity to, out-coach Campbell and to, have that week of preparation, have that playoff experience that he has. But I think no matter the result for Jared Goff and the Lions, whoever wins this game, I think he's throwing the ball a ton. And I think over 260 is a pretty good one. And I'll just throw it out there, Andy. Even though I like the over on this prop, the total is 52.5. It's in a dome, 2 kind of rough defenses. I'm on an island. I think I'm the only person I've heard that actually leans towards the under in this game as a whole. I actually think we could see some just all you really need when you got a 52.5 total is some drives, some decent long drives to turn from potential touchdowns into field goals. If that happens multiple times, you're really impacting the total in a big way. I don't know. It worries me when it seems like everybody and their mother are like, yeah, this game's going to fly over. They're playing in a dome. It's the only game without bad weather with 2 talented teams. It's still 52.5 and it's still a playoff game. So despite me liking the passing yards over, I did have to mention that because I'm either going to look really smart or like an absolute dummy if taking the under in this game. So should be a good one to watch though.
If you want to point out that either of us looks like a dummy, leave us a comment below. And I think that goes without saying.
Of course.
Videos.
Let us know. Troll away.
Absolutely. Nothing but love for everybody. So, Andrew, one more time, tell us what you have up for this weekend and where we can find you at.
Andy, really just recommend the 3-day pass. You're going to get every single player release. There's a massive card. With the NHL. I've got my prop pack in the NFL. I got a 5% play going up for the NFL this weekend. And the Aussie Open tennis plays. I don't handicap every single tournament in tennis. Maybe it's just certain times of year. I'm more focused on other sports and things like that, or the times that the games are going on. But looking forward to that. And I really only have a couple UFC plays, so I'm not going to be heavily involved. I'm going to actually wait until the big cards to get back into it. But looking forward to a great weekend, guys. And again, really encourage people to check out those 3-day passes.
Love it. If you're going to any of the games, be careful out there. Good luck on all your bets this weekend, guys. And remember, protect those bankrolls. Just because it's the playoffs doesn't mean you have to go all in on these games. Let's make sure we're not overexposing ourselves with too many units. Let's come out of this weekend profitable. And we are going to be back Monday to break down Monday. I'm still wrapping my head around a Monday playoff game between the Eagles and Buccaneers. But hey, it's another day of propping up, so we'll take it. So thanks for joining us, everybody. Shout out to everybody in the chat room. Give us a like, and don't forget to leave us a comment with your best bet for the weekend. Good luck on all your plays. We will see everyone Monday for